The Falconer, or Falconeer, is a third-person flight shooter set in a steampunk universe where different houses, factions are vying for control of, I think, territory or this objective in the middle, that kind of thing. It's up to you whether you follow the story. It took me about 10 hours to complete. I chose not to. It's not necessary to play the game, which I will get into later. But how it works is with your Falcon, you have a single rider. You don't have multiple gunners or anything like that. You upgrade. You can upgrade his weapon as well as the ammo types that has different status effects like on the enemies. For instance, it might slow them down. They might catch on to fire. Also mutagens, which is a separate area. You can upgrade your Falcon itself, which you may fly faster, regenerate health, and this all costs money that you get through completing story missions as well as side missions. It's separated by chapters where you take the perspective of the various factions and you see what story-wise what they're going into, and then you have a natural progression here. So a very story-focused game and lore if you're into it for that. But the question is, how is the actual gameplay? First, the good. Graphically, especially for being an indie game, I've said this many times before, it's amazing what they can do nowadays with indie games. It looks great, especially the water. It's just like, maybe not Sea of Thieves type of water, but actually flying through, and the weather effects in particular with the lighting and how the clouds change. It kind of has that Atlantic Ocean type of a feel. Fortunately, the gameplay is kind of the casualty here. Big time. You can play with a controller or a flight stick, but how it works is you can target onto an enemy and there's a whole lot of auto aim. Especially when you get closer, it gets easier and easier to hit the bad guys. And on top of that, the AI isn't too great. I often found myself, or always, going around in a circle, taking down enemies, and you have all kinds. You have like the ships, or you have enemies in the air, zeppelins, and you have different weapons. That's going to change your experience a little bit, but the AI and gameplay difficulty, that's going to be pretty much the same. There is a higher difficulty, but I didn't find the AI to really improve, and you have the issue of losing all your stuff, which means you have to grind and go through the gameplay again and again. So I played most of it on normal and beat it on normal difficulty. There are like mines you can pick up, but since they're a pain, it's easier just to shoot the enemy ships most of the time. Only a few instances where you're actually going to be dropping the mine bomb things onto them. This extends to the mission structure as well. Like I said earlier, you can skip out on what is going on because all you're doing is flying to a location. Sometimes you'll have an item, like here I have a chest. You'll encounter some enemies at some point and then drop it off. It's simplistic to the point that's why they have a skip ahead feature. You don't have to fly the whole way. You're able to fast travel ahead, and then you're able to do the same thing going back. And you're doing this over and over again. You don't need to know what's going on. Here is a taste of the acting.
What? This is an outrage! We provided the order with untold profits from Madoi's mines. We don't even have business without Borgia. This is not our fault!
For me, I didn't really mind because I'm not into the story, but if you are, the amateurish acting might kind of bug you. But there is at least the enthusiasm with it, so it kind of depends on your personality if it is an issue or not. But like, it's something you don't really take seriously, and it adds to me just skipping ahead. And what you'll have when they're explaining what's going on in the mission structure, it doesn't matter what chapter it is, you'll just have a different starting location. You'll be taken to the map showing you where you are and then what you're supposed to do in these complicated things from one to the other. But this really just amounts to jumping from one location. You can skip ahead, take out some guys, and they'll tell you what to do there. So I pick up a mine, I pick up something, and then I travel back. I have to go to this location. It is really basic, which is disappointing because it's pretty cool. You have this open battlefield of all these different things going on and just how basic the gameplay is. And I did die a few times, but that's usually because I don't have allies around me and I just get swarmed. It's not because of the AI or where I have to think and adapt to a situation. Most of the time I just got to stay back farther or upgrade something rather than react in any way meaningful gameplay-wise. Whether you're renting or buying, I don't recommend the Falconeer. Problem is the gameplay. When you jump into the first few missions, right away you notice there is a generous amount of auto-aim. When you have that first encounter, you're not actually aiming your sights at the guy, you're just kind of close enough. And so it takes away the skill part to it, and then you think it's going to get better with more enemies on screen, and then just looking at it graphically, like the lighting, the weather effects look great, but even when you have more enemies, it amounts to the same thing. And on the opposite end, if you're just swarmed by a bunch and you can't get away, then you'll die, and then the next time you'll hang back, let them clear them out, and then move in. But it's artificial kind of difficulty. You're never remotely outsmarted. Your Falcon was just too weak, or you got too close and you just hang back. Like, it's why you'll have these opposite encounters often going on. And they are really going for graphics and story direction. There's like a photo mode where you can kind of go up close. And like that, you know, in that way, it does look good, but it's really early on that you get sick of it when you do those first few combat engagements, and most people probably think it's going to change a bit later. Oh, I can upgrade my Falcon with the mutagens and the different auxiliary ammo. It's going to change everything. But it ends up just being a grind fest. And if you go higher difficulties, you get sick of it even faster because you have to grind if you lose any of your equipment early on, which is what happens. And so most of the time I just stuck with normal story missions, and the grinding missions are the same kind of thing anyway. So you're not going to see any difference playing those. If you like this video, please give it a like. Really like to consider subscribing, picking up on Game Pass. Check out the link below, and I will see you next time.
You seem too busy. Return when you're more available for some escort work.
The Falconer, or Falconeer.